Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. In this podcast, we'll dive into the strategies that top leaders, investors, and entrepreneurs are using to navigate and thrive in this era of accelerating technological change. Whether you're looking to lead more effectively, make smarter investments, or understand how to harness disruptive technologies for exponential growth, this podcast is for you. Each episode will feature conversations with visionary thinkers, industry pioneers, and innovative leaders who are redefining what's possible in today's rapidly evolving world. So if you're ready to start and stay ahead of this curve, let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. All right, everyone. Well, hey, welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast. This is a bonus edition. We're going to cover two things. Do a really quick recap on this season 5. It's amazing. I've already had 5 seasons at this. I think just persistence really puts you in the top, 20% of all podcasts just by doing more than 8. I think most people stop after 8. So we're going to summarize that real quick, this season 5. And then talk about just some of the amazing, things that I've been seeing the last 10 days or so that's going on in this amazing world of exponential growth. That's just every day something new is happening. So I'll touch on a couple of things that I'm seeing and reading about and hearing. So look, season 5 was amazing. Had a lot of great leaders, everything from AI to digital infrastructure, blockchain, some leaders, some authors, some people in the fintech space, the intersection of ag and tech. So it was amazing. So, we had Mike Betchel. He was the kind of chief strategist, chief digital at Deloitte, and worked in the future, work as a futurist within Accenture's research labs. Interviewed Francisco Martin Rayo, who was recently featured in the Wall Street Journal. And he talked about his business Helios and at the intersection of agriculture, AI, climate, and supply chain. So fascinating conversation with him. I interviewed Guillermo Diaz. He was a former chief information officer at Cisco and also serves on the board of Jack in the Box and the Blue Cross of California. So sharing all of his perspectives on global technology at scale, workforce, etc. Then I had the opportunity to interview Carmen Ortiz McGee, and she's a leader at the NAIC, and then also author of the Bumblebee Blueprint. Say that fast a couple times. And then just the analogy between bumblebees and navigating change and leadership in this environment. Eduardo Tobon, interviewed him, a financial leader across many, senior leader across many different companies. Tracy Seward, who I had the opportunity to work with Accenture. She was a managing director, managing change, and we talked about AI and change. Max Rivera, who has a leadership role now at Microsoft with AI, getting his perspectives on AI, the industry, and what's happening there. Karen Levert, she's a general partner like myself in a venture fund. And she's also has an agriculture focus, and we chatted with her and her background. And then Marcelo DeSantis, when I think about AI and everything that's going out there, he is one of the top leaders that I go to. So always great to chat with Marcelo. And then Anya Rodriguez, who chatted about her startup, Journey Track, and looking at journeys of digital journeys, right? We all kind of interacting in a digital space, and her business, Journey Track. So that was kind of the summary of season 5. It was great, and thank you all for listening. And then if we look at now just what I've seen over the last 10 days or so of what's going on, it was fascinating. I wrote about this in my newsletter. I was in San Francisco about a week ago. Time flies. And for an Angeles Summit that we had, looking at startups and whatnot and speaking with investors. But also then going on this week was Google I/O, and this is kind of Google's big conference. and their keynote, and you're starting to see Gemini, starting to get their AI kind of language models and platforms really grow and start to take some share. But they're also not thinking about, they're executing on how they're integrating Gemini AI with YouTube, with the glasses, with all their different Google Docs and all that kind of stuff. You're seeing this big integration, and Google's just such a big monster company, right? Keep an eye on them. They will likely, and there's some predicting that there's a lot of things happening in the AI space, but Google's going to likely come out the winner. We'll see. But keep an eye on Google. And then another news was Anthropic. So they are the amount, and I wrote a newsletter article on this. Their growth is insane, right? They're on track for 10, almost 11 billion in Q2, which is they were doing like 4 billion in revenue in Q1. So they're growing from quarter to quarter more than most of the companies in the size of Fortune 500 companies, right? Basically growing almost, no, that's like about 6 billion or so in one quarter, which is just fascinating and amazing growth. And then if you look at annual recurring revenue, I think they said they're going to end up doing about $100 million or so at the end of this year in annual recurring revenue. So it's just amazing growth that Anthropic is hitting. And then there's a couple in this past week, a couple companies have filed for their initial public offering or IPO. One is OpenAI. It's going to be massive. They're neck and neck competing with Anthropic. And then the one that I'm looking forward to is SpaceX or SpaceXI, right? They're gonna file for their IPO, and I think in both of these cases, the one thing that I'm will be interested. I think these are going to be huge IPOs. I think SpaceX is going to be larger because if you look at the opportunity in space, it's somewhat infinite in terms of growth and growth potential, which is how companies are evaluated, the addressable market that they're going after. So SpaceX has a great foothold there. I think the other thing to also look at is like who are the suppliers and the ecosystem around SpaceX and OpenAI that when these IPO, I believe they're going to do very, very, very well. I think they're going to do more than what they're even projecting. Who else also is going to benefit from these amazing IPOs? So keep an eye on that. There's continued to be more updates and models, and every time you turn around, every week it seems like another company is putting out the next generation model. So you'll see that. These chip. The other thing that you're seeing is there's not enough chips. You can't make them fast enough, right? NVIDIA announced earnings this week, record earnings, record revenue. And you almost can't produce these chips fast enough. This is why Elon Musk created his own factory for chips. And the interesting things that you're seeing different partners. You're seeing Anthropic looking to partner with Microsoft for chips, and Anthropic went to Elon Musk in his fab to get chips. And so you're seeing interesting, and Meta working with Google for their chips. So there's interesting partnerships that are being played out for chips, let alone everything geopolitically around the world. If you look at Taiwan and the interest in Taiwan and their semiconductors and all that kind of stuff. So this chips are really big. You have chips and energy and this kind of whole stack, but the chip wars continue to heat up. So those were some of the, and I'd say the major things that happened over the last week. Continue to be bullish. There's a couple other things that I'm seeing. I'm going to be talking with Marcelo DeSantis next week on the pod. We're talking about Anthropic and all this stuff is growing, and companies are starting to use these, some better than others. But what's hitting companies now is the costs, right? So they're using these models, they're using tokens, they're using things like crazy, and then they're getting hit with the bill, and they're saying, "Whoa, what just hit us?" So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what that is, and how that's going to play out over the next several months. So, uh, in summary, look, this was season 5. Thank you for those who've listened. It's amazing. I was in Washington D.C. this week, and somebody stopped me and said they listened. They said thank you, and thank you for what you're doing and putting this out there. And look, my thesis is we're in times of exponential change. I always have my antenna up for exponential curves that I think are going to be impactful. Uh, Change, and the best way to stay ahead of this stuff is you got to be aware of the curves. You got to understand how they're going to impact you. How can you leverage them to win? Whether it's investing, how do you lead? How do you grow? How do you grow your own company? So I'm going to continue to do that. I love to do that. I'm thankful for those who listen and the sponsors, Executive House, their sponsorship. And as we go into Memorial Week, and have an excellent holiday weekend. And we'll kick off season 6 here on Tuesday with Marcelo DeSantis, and probably the recording will come out later in the week. Thank you.